between TempestMask1000 and Kiwami, we're gonna see who will be the first to make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
All right, well, hello everybody. Goodness, I can't believe we're actually making this happen, but here we are. As Zoku introduced me, my name is TempestMask1000, also known to some as Steve. I'll be one of your runners, and joining me, I have the privilege of racing against the runner who just did Mighty Gunvolt Burst, Kiwami. Thank you again for agreeing to this. This is going to be super fun.
No problem. I definitely look forward to this race.
And joining us on the commentary are two of some of Mighty Number 9's finest commentators among the Legacy crew themselves. They're both good friends of mine, Mr. Cab and LV Creed. Introduce yourselves.
Hi, Mr. Cab. I'm trying to decide if I want to respond to I love that we remembered the anime fan on prom night and Legacy. I'm like, no. Glad to be here.
And I'm LB Creed, and I, for one, unironically do like this game. It's a pretty solid game. Well, we're just gonna leave it at that, and we're just hoping to have a fantastic race between two good runners.
Indeed.
Yeah.
This game, it deserves its bad reputation, but it's like, this game is definitely underrated in the way that some of, pick your favorite overhyped game here is overrated, but it's still good. This game's bad, but it's not as bad as everybody says it is. It's good. It's fun.
I think it's around average at best, but yeah, it pretty much got all the drama and all that. But we're gonna leave that behind, and we're just gonna get our runners set up for our race. So, Kiwami, Tempest, are y'all two ready to go?
I'm ready whenever. I'm just going to mute so that we'll leave most of the commentary to you guys. But yeah, also, I totally forgot to do my little intro. I was going to say, hi, I'm Tempest. I'm an anime fan who did not cry on prom night. Anyway, let's have fun.
Heaven help us.
Yo.
But yeah, at this point, we're pretty much ready to go. So once y'all two are ready, we're going to go on 3 and on go. So we'll just get going. So starting from 3, 2, 1, go.
And here we go with Mighty Number 9. This was a Mega Man clone kickstarted. What was it? Inafune, if I get the name right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly, it is a Mega Man game. It's kind of weird. You get this cool back jump, which for the first couple of minutes is going to be our only real way of going faster than just walking. But we will very quickly get the legendary acceleration and be able to just start dashing through stages for fun.
Yeah, the acceleration is actually going to be one of our, not only our primary movement, but it's going to be one of our main attacking abilities. Because the thing about this, the Buster really isn't that strong. It's really more of a setup to finish off enemies, and you get special items and abilities for temporary pieces of time as you defeat enemies. So as you get started, as you can see, at least on Tempest, you already got this little red icon. There are a few icons that you can get from destroying enemies. The one that Tempest has, which is red, is one that actually increases your Buster, your overall attacking strength for a brief period of time. There's also yellow for decreased knockback or invincibility, whichever, and one that is green, which increases your speed for a little bit. There are some that actually do blue icons as well. You get it under your health bar. That's actually, as you saw on Kiwami's side, that's going to be your makeshift energy tank. And there's a specific button for that. Hopefully we don't see accidental usage. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of some of the basic attacking and movement options for Mighty Number 9 in the early goings.
Yeah, that's pretty much the game. Otherwise, we've got kind of Mega Man 1 going. We've got a Buster. You're going to see purple death spikes and little like laser beams and everything else. Iframes will not save you. But otherwise, we've got a ledge grab, we've got some air dashing, and let's go.
We got Kiwami first in our intro stage boss. So the thing about dealing with bosses is that it's like we said earlier, your buster is more of a setup, and once you get to a specific threshold, you're using your acceleration dash as the finisher in order to actually deplete the health bar. If you don't deplete them quick enough with the acceleration dash, they do actually regain some of that red health. But as you can see, both Tempest and Kwame are actually pretty close to being the characters around the same time. But looks like Tempest is having to deal with some cutscene additions.
Yeah, but he's not that far behind. They're getting him at about the same time. Mighty number 9 on the leaderboards does go by the in-game time stage by stage, so no worries there really. But yep, the acceleration, like you're saying, it's a setup. You hit enemies enough times, and then I believe the lore is that our hero Beck basically absorbs the little robot cells, which are lovingly called cells in the game. And that's how we're finishing them off. That's how we're getting all these little abilities as we go. But it does mean we can dash. We can air dash across. We have actually a down air dash as well, which doesn't seem very often. But let's see. I think Kiwami just set. Yep, there we go.
So
go ahead.
So the thing is, one of the commands that Beck has is at his disposal is the action shift. So when you start with the action shift, you actually have a little bit of vulnerability. So what was found that if you actually do that while kind of like falling down or getting off a platform, you actually keep those iframes for duration of a period. It will actually end here because it ends like in like these fighter rooms or transfer rooms. But yeah, you kind of keep those. It's kind of like if you're familiar with Mega Man X6 speed runs, when Zero does this Suseizan, that little rotating spinning blade attack, it's kind of similar to that. You keep the invulnerability frames for a while until set points.
Yeah, it's like the game gives you the iframes for the dodge, but then because you don't finish the dodge as expected, the game never gets to a point where it takes those iframes away. So you can just go through most things. From there, the only thing with this game, like we kind of alluded to earlier, iframes won't actually save you from instant death traps like these spikes. So that includes even with the invincibility glitch. You don't need to use the invincibility glitch to go fast, but it sure makes things a lot easier.
Tempest unfortunately taking the death part of the way. Now getting to that kill room section. Kiwami pretty far along. You also notice that we're starting with Battalion stage first. So we're starting with Battalion mostly because Battalion's weapon is extremely good. It's basically the Metal Blaze of Mighty Number 9. It has a high weapon ammo count, well, a low weapon ammo count, so you can just pretty much just mash it for a good little bit, and it's very, very strong. So Battalion is pretty much a key starting point for the run as we get to Battalion himself. Can you describe the Battalion fight?
Yeah, Battalion fight is pretty simple, actually. All he can really do is hop around. He has those sort of like almost magnet missile-like attacks. He's got a few machine gun bullets he can fire at you. But that's really all he does. All bosses in this game do have a sort of desperation attack here, so you do need to make sure you avoid the instant death shot. But it's not too hard. And from there, just stay on the other side of the room in case that shot can explode into a kind of half of the screen attack. From there, yeah, just buster him down and get Battalion's weapon. Mighty number 5, like Creed was saying, is sort of the easiest, most popular weapon of this game. You alluded to Metal Blade. I like to bring in Mega Man 8 here. This is Grenade Man's weapon. It's kind of just a very all-purpose large explosive. And here, before Mega Man 11 came out, back looks a little bit like that Robot Master. Of course, they said during the design of this game it's something they wish they could put into Mega Man 1, but the NES was the NES.
All right, so the routing of this game is going to be pretty much weakness order. So next up, we're going to side miss stage in the mines. This stage is a very, very claustrophobic area. So there's not very much in terms of maneuverability, and even some of the spikes are very, very close to walls that you pretty much just move hardly to the left or to the right. You can pretty much easily get yourself killed. As you can see on Kiwami's, it's very, very tight. So navigating to these tight corridors is pretty much going to be paramount to try to get through this area safely and not get yourself killed. But this is going to be another area where you're going to see that invincibility glitch along the way as well. And we're going to see if Kiwami is able to utilize it and finish out the stage as quick as possible. And it looks like she did.
Oh yeah, he got it a while ago. This is probably one of the few instant death enemies of like the game. These like giant bore drills here that you can go through with that invincibility glitch. You can see Battalion up there as well, sort of kind of helping out Beck, taking care of 2 of those drills for you. It's just a neat quirk of this game that as you defeat the Robot Masters, as it were, the other mighty numbers will appear in other stages to just give you a little bit of help here and there, but that also then gives you a little bit of a hint of, hey, you have the weakness weapon, by the way.
Pretty much just tearing through the rest of this corridor, and you can see Battalion about to come in right about now. Just destroy this thing and continue on your way. Not sure if it's necessarily faster in terms of cutscene time, but yeah, you wouldn't normally have to be waiting for that borer to destroy the obstacle that was blocking your way. And yeah, we're at the seismic fight, where the name of the game is just blow the living daylights out of seismic with your battalion missiles and just hope that it dies as fast as possible.
Yep. It is just an overpowered weapon in every sense of the word. Tempest has the invincibility glitch here as well, I'm pretty sure. Again, lets you go right through these giant drill bores, which is probably one of my favorite early discoveries that was even possible.
Actually, while we're... Oh, sorry to interrupt. Go on ahead.
No, you go ahead. I think I know what you were about to say.
Well, not maybe not, but I was actually just taking a little bit of time to talk about how weapons actually regenerate, because there are actually no like weapon pickups to... Ooh, Tempest taking a unfortunate death on the spikes. But yeah, in terms of weapon regeneration, weapons actually regenerate automatically, but it's actually kind of slow. You actually want to try to use your acceleration dash to try to get weapons refilled as quickly as possible as well, because there are 0 weapon energy pickups in this game at all. So trying to manage your weapons throughout the game, and especially on particular bosses, is another particular skill that you're gonna have to keep in mind when running the game.
Yeah, Battalion's weapon, obviously you have an awful lot of it, but there are some other weapons later on. Notably, what's the sniper's name?
Countershade.
Countershade. I think you get 3 shots of it off of a full meter. Tempest with a nice recovery, almost up to seismic now, as Kiwami's jumping through traffic here in Blade stage. No!
Yeah, Brandis' stage can be pretty dangerous as you're hopping from vehicle to vehicle. Naturally, if you land on the streets below, it's basically like a pit or spot, and you're absolutely dead. And of course, as you can see, Battalion's weapon being on the forefront, destroying each and everything, almost one shot, and moving through the area as quickly as possible. So that's pretty much just the theme of the stage, just hopping from vehicle to vehicle, hoping to just safely move along and not wind up getting yourself killed in the process, because enemies will try to be in the positions where falling down can be a pretty easy affair.
Yeah, it's very easy for the knockback to just kind of send you down onto the street. We don't like the pavement, so we'll try and stay off of it. I believe there's a setup to try and get invincibility so that you can avoid getting knocked back. And again, this is an auto-scroller, right? and I
Yeah.
think he's just got it. So there's not that much here that's going to, speed things up. This is all just about avoiding knockbacks. So you can see we're just going to hang out with the crew here.
Yeah, this is probably gonna last for a couple of minutes, especially on Kiwami's end. So if there are any donation comments, this would be a fine time for some of them.
Not a problem. We actually do have a donation that has no comment, but thank you so much for the $25, Bean. Again, any donations you send, you can put them towards your choice of incentives. I believe you can put exclamation mark incentives in the chat to see which of our many incentives you'd like to donate to. But if you're looking for some ideas, again, Quickie Mountain 2 is our lost game for today. We are at $1,561 out of $2,000. That's less than 500 to go. And it's only about like 3.5 hours away. Let's get those donations in. It's all going to the great cause that is the Trevor Project.
Thank you so much for those donations.
We should be coming close to the end of the auto scroller on Kiwami's end. Tempest is going through the second of the 3 major portions of the stage, and now we're about to go to the Brandish fight. Cab, would you like to describe this fight?
So we get to see Seismic's weapon here finally, where you basically turn into a little bulldozer. It's actually one of my favorite just meme weapons from this game, but it is very powerful in its own right. Brandish, when he gets into a desperation mode, though, sometimes, though not all the times, you can kind of set something up where you get an extra attack. You just basically attack him, and if you can get the damage in before he goes into that kind of slicing across the entire screen sequence, you can actually skip the whole thing. So unfortunately, we got to do it there. I don't think we ever figured out what precisely caused you to be able to do that. But this game's a game, and Brandish just goes down pretty quick to Mighty Number 4's weapon.
And from there, we do get Brandish's weapon, which is basically it's a big old sword, basically. And probably one of the amazingly more versatile weapons. You're probably going to see one of its versatility options when we get to the boss of this upcoming stage, which is Donatron, of which the stage, pretty much in the power plant, there's going to be a few gimmicks in the stage. Of course, one of it being the blackout sections, but the blackout sections are really not all that important. It's just everything's pretty much straightforward. But the biggest obstacles that you're probably going to be seeing throughout this entire stage are going to be these huge pink turbines, which are instant kill. Of course, one of the most infamous sections in the entire game does occur in this stage involving those turbines. Of course, we see that a little bit later, but for the most part, it's just pretty much a straightforward go. As you see, once again, you're going to be seeing a lot. Battalion's missiles are just too good, and you're going to be using it for the majority of the stage as you just try to navigate all the platforming, destroying enemies. It's pretty much just your basic Mega Man style, jumping, shooting, up until you get points like this, and you got to defeat enemies in a specific room before moving on.
Indeed. So just that infamous section, just to add on to that, Brandish, this stage, and I want to say Mighty Number 2 stage were the 3 demo stages that came out, and there was even like feedback back then about this stage, and it still bugs me that they didn't do anything about it. Tempest working through the second half of Mighty Number 7's attacks. Let's go.
Yeah, gotta watch that health. Health's getting a little bit dicey.
Is that a pun based on he's using a sword?
Definitely unintentional, but it'll work.
All right, so here we go. One thing that the game actually, they did at least put in a warning. Oh my goodness. Is when you use the acceleration on the ground, you can actually hold down. And if you look at most of these dashes, you'll see Beck is slightly in the air. If you hold down, he will hug the ground for sort of a slide, as it were, effect on the dash. So here we go. There we go.
Very clean.
That right there looks way too easy. I don't even think Kiwami even stopped That's probably the easiest place to just accidentally walk right into the death trap. And it's hard to slide under the whole thing. It's not like you can hold it to slide as long as you want. So good job.
Ollie has a visual cue to know when to actually do that little sliding dash, which honestly wasn't even available as a notable option at the very beginning. Pretty much had to guess at it. And of course, in later installments, they just put a note on there. But even then, it's such a tough section to get under. And deaths are pretty much frequent. Meanwhile, you see Dynatron, you saw that little downward slash. One of Brandish's versatile actions is that when you charge and press specific inputs, at least for the downward slash, you hold down while releasing the charge, you can actually get a very powerful downward slash, and that's pretty good to take out all of the bits that Dynatron has in order to get rid of them, because they do stick towards you, they stick on you if they actually hit you, and when she attacks, they will track you. So, and of course, Brandish being the weakness ability for Donatron pretty much make this a very quick fight. So very well done Kiwami's in. Meanwhile, you see Tempest doing the first kill room, and pretty much just continuing on from there. Not necessarily too far behind, but still got to make up some ground.
Yep. I still love that you use the sword weapon and cut the cord on the power plant. Now we're into another one of the infamous stages. I actually like the design of this stage. I think it just needs one tweak that basically is named checkpoints, and this is actually a really neat stage. The whole thing is actually a giant loop, and we are hunting Countershade, who is actually a sniper. So we've got to find him first. And we kind of have a lot of back and forth here. There is a trick here where we're going to see some very specific damage dealing happening. Tempest not quite able to get under that second thing. You can see it on the screen, even hint crouch to dash. Ugh. But anyway, back to Countershade. There is a sequence here, this chasing. Usually it takes, I want to say 3 or 4 chimes chasing him to kind of get out of this loop and get to the boss section. If you deal damage in a very specific way, you can basically cut out the last chase and do it one cycle early.
Yeah, this is probably the reason why this stage has no checkpoints and technically can be as short as you make it. It's kind of scummy that you do kind of like have to redo the whole damage cycle if you die, but like I said, if you know what you're doing, this stage is insanely short, but that's if you know what you're doing. And of course, you're chasing Countershade throughout this entire looping stretch, so pretty much knowing where he is at all times and trying to get through the area as quick as possible, which Kiwami does, is pretty much going to be the most important aspect of trying to get through this stage fast.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing they could have done for checkpoints is mostly just like try to keep track of Countershade's health between deaths. But, oh well. Yeah, don't forget the health. Thanks, Eddie. Forget what Eddie's name in this game is.
So do I, but not really the most important thing to remember at this point. What we do need to remember is how the counter-shade fight works. So the counter-shade fight works, so you got Donatron's weapon, which is the weakness. So the thing you want to do is try to get all those pylons, and as soon as you get counter-shade to weakened state, you can actually dash along with it, and the electric string, which I'm just gonna call it, actually do connect with each other, so you can actually dash around the middle of it, and it does count as the dash hit. So you're trying to do all that as quickly as possible, probably putting in some pea shooter shots along the way if necessary, to just make sure you continuing to pile on the damage. Otherwise, you just pretty much gotta keep track on Countershade, because for such a short arena, he's actually pretty mobile, and there's a lot of obstacles in the way that could make the trying to keep track of Countershade a little tedious.
And we only saw it once after that sort of desperation fire at the screen effect. Countershade's typically invisible when bouncing around the room, but if he's been tagged by Donatron's weapon, he will be very, very, very visible. So it helps keep track of them. It's a weakness weapon, right? Makes the fight that much easier. So we're going to take our new ricocheting sniper shot and go deal with Avi in the news. Aviator stage here on the radio tower. What is he, a news bot or weather bot? He's something like that.
I think he's actually, I believe he's supposed to be a surveillance robot. But regardless of the matter, yeah, the radio tower is basically going to be equivalent to your aerial sky stage / tower stage. So it's a lot of rising up the top of the tower, as well as some aerial platforming with pits below. Love this stage, love this theme, just putting that as an aside. But as for obstacles, you're seeing it right now, Kiwami's in. This is very heavy on wind mechanics. In this case, it can be helpful or harmful depending on the area. In this case, it's going to be a little bit harmful because the wind is going against your face. So movements, as you move straight ahead, is going to be kind of limited. Or in this case, as you kind of like swerve around, you saw that it actually can help you with movement speed as the wind does increase or decrease the speed depending on direction.
Yeah, a weird wind effect that happens in this game too is when you are accelerating, the wind actually affects you more. That includes the ability to push you up into the air as you're dashing around. This section too, you can see these little turrets. You're just kind of blowing them all up with Battalion's weapons. This is another place too where I will call out, if you're playing on the Wii U or the PlayStation 3 version of this game, the graphics just really show, and they actually look almost N64-esque. But on most of the other platforms, that looks just fine.
I've been guilty of playing this on the PS3. It's kind of an interesting experience, to say the least. Especially with the lag, because it's surprisingly heavy resource intensive, but we can go on and on about the history, about the development, and how it messes up on consoles that aren't the updated ones. But yeah, right now, as you can see, once again, just messing with the wind physics once again, use the wind physics, being careful as not to fall down. You got to loop around the entire area if you fall here. Also, got to be careful in this open air section. Oh yeah, there are a few ways you can get by this area. As you can see, Kiwami's using Battalion's weapon. You can also use counter-shade weapons, as Cab alluded to. Not only is it reflex, it actually kind of has a pseudo-homing ability. So once it ricochets off for one enemy, it actually kind of traces to another, and it can actually instantly put them in a state where they can be killed by an acceleration dash. So it's actually very powerful, but also, as previously alluded to, it uses up a lot of ammo. So you're gonna have to be pretty prudent with your shots so as not to waste energy.
You can see just the dashes back and forth here. I do want to, if we want to talk about good game design elements of this game, check out just Avi's dialogue, as if you ever play this stage in the whole background. He is very much hamming up the nation in crisis news reporter aspect, and of course, he is the story. But that said, we're here for the fight itself. And it's all about Countershade's weapon. You can see this little one platform in the middle is a little low, so you can actually bank the sniper shots off of it and use that. And let's go.
Yeah, as you can see in this fight, the shots use up a lot of ammo. So, as mentioned before, you got to be very prudent and very accurate with your shots. So you don't wind up being in a position where you're pretty much just waiting for the ammo to resupply if you don't get to a point where you can do acceleration dash attack finisher, which does help increase that meter back up.
And that central platform does have a couple of ledges. I'm sure you've noticed it by now, just for avoiding some of these strafing runs from Avi.
Being Tempest, nice. As Kiwami finishes off Aviator, thanks Avi, we see that Tempest is at the mid-boss of the Aviator stage, so we're probably about half a stage behind Kiwami. Once again, not too far behind, so pretty much any significant mistake Kiwami has, Tempest can potentially catch up at any given moment. Also, never get to mention this about this mini boss fight. You do want to get those red power ups to increase the damage so you can make this mini boss fight even faster. As you can see, a pretty solid kill on Tempest in as we go to power gen stays on Kiwami's end.
Now, Kiwami got the invincibility glitch in this stage. We haven't seen that in a little while. But it is actually really important in this stage because you have a lot of fire. Kind of like Mega Man 6 and the oil fields of Flame Man stage. There's an oil field down here. And if you get caught in the lit up oil, well, it's kind of over. But you do get your iframes, unlike every other death trap in this game. So that is extremely useful when you can get it.
You also want to actually make a little use of the oil platforming as well, because the oil is actually pretty slick, and with proper dashing, you do get a significant amount of boost. So utilizing the oil as a movement mechanic as well. See if we got the invisibility. Yep, got the invisibility again. And as you can see, going not only using it to skip platforming, but actually using it as a speed boost as well to get by the area quickly. But this is probably the most important section where we would like to have our invincibility. These pillars are instant kill. Fortunately, we got here after defeating Aviator, so we don't have to worry about some of it. But right here, another one of those tedious platforming sections where these falling fireballs can impede your progress and could potentially get you in the death pits below, but Kiwami got navigated safely, and now we're in the power gen fight.
Yep. I believe normally you can only fire one of the propeller blades from Avi at a time, but just switching back and forth, again, the game kind of forgets that you have one out already, and so you can start juggling multiple of them at a time. And you can use that to take care of Mighty Number One really fast. He's supposed to have a little bit of a purple fire effect right after that desperation phase, where if he gets a hold of you, instead of just the normal amount of damage, you take all of the damage, and it's an instant death.
Yep.
But, yep, just knock him out of it faster than he can react. And congrats on beating the stage.
Meanwhile, we got Tempest in the Aviator fight. Hopefully, we get into situations where he gets positioned to get those good counter shade reflection shots and get the proper energies to kill Aviator as quickly as possible. Right now, it's so far so good. As we go to what should be our final stage of our mighty numbers in Cryosphere. And Cryosphere is kind of like a dual gimmick stage where the first part you're gonna have to be dealing with underwater physics. Of course, thanks to the underwater physics, you can see, and having infinite air dashes, you can pretty much just ignore everything that is below and just pretty much just dash pretty much carefree and skip quite a bit of enemies that are at the bottom. But of course, as you go through the rest of the stage, as you can probably see at the beginning, there is going to be a little bit of a gimmick involving ice. So right now we're dealing with water, and later on we're going to have to deal with ice, where ice physics obviously going to be in play. But in terms of like ledge grabbing, you cannot grab ledge anything that's on an icy surface. So naturally, with this gimmick in mind, it's going to be filled with a crap ton of spikes. So dealing with platforming with spikes and trying to properly land on platform safely can be a very tricky affair. So that's something to keep in mind as we're about to get to our first set of mini bosses here.
Does anybody remember Pong?
Oh yeah, Pong was a pretty fun game.
I've heard good things. Once you take out one of the robots, typically the Pong ball starts speeding up a little bit, but we're already done, so nothing to worry about there. Oh, we're stuck on ice. This is another one of those sections where you can get through it possibly a little fast, but it's just taking it safe at this point, and that's fine.
Yeah, as you can see, Kiwami took a little fall. Like I said, under normal circumstances, you probably could have recovered with ledge grabbing, but thanks to the ice physics and the ice mechanics, you cannot ledge grab. So if once you've fallen, you're pretty much almost certain to stay falling. And once we deal with that mini boss session, it's gonna come in very important here. So hopefully all the platforming is good and tight and you don't get into a situation where you're falling, and there you go. Pretty much safely towards the boss of the cryosphere state into the cryosphere boss herself.
Yep. This fight kind of have this look for when is she going to freeze the ice pillar. If you knock her off of it the right angle, you can kind of stun her a little bit, but we're mostly going to look to make use of Pyro's weapon here to just do as much damage as possible. It can be charged. Granted, you mostly want to just kind of hit with damage as much as you can.
Yeah, you could deal.
Trying to follow there. How much were we getting frozen? And how much damage were we doing?
Yeah, you could do max damage with a full charge power gen explosion, but like I said, that takes time, and you want to deal as much successive damage as possible. So it's definitely not recommended for the full charge, as you saw Kiwami do throughout the entire fight. Tempest taking another unfortunate death. Having to start from the beginning of the level, putting himself just quite a ways back.
Yeah, this is just another one of those mean spike jumps that's in this stage where you basically have no room to jump up, and that can just be that. That said, Kiwami is now in the call stage. One of the Kickstarter, the stretch goals was to have this call stage, or a stage where you could play as Beck's robot sister Call. Beck and Call, get it? But Call, unfortunately, does not have that same acceleration capability that Beck does. This kind of sticks Call with needing to use what amounts to her Buster to take care of everything, so things take a little longer. The stage is more of a sneak around the robots don't get caught mission while you find a whole bunch of keys. And it's a stage. It's actually not terrible. Just takes some time.
Yeah, we'll probably see the actual platforming isn't bad, but when you actually get to the actual combat, that's when things begin to drag quite a little bit, and you'll notice it easily in two sections. One which should be coming up right in a few moments. Yep. Yeah, another one of those kill rooms. Well, of course, thanks to her Buster being very, 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 very weak, you're pretty much just, it's kind of like a pseudo-timed section. So you pretty much just gotta, like these bombs here, you're pretty much waiting for them to explode before you get to the next phase. And here we actually had to use the Buster for the kills. You see, it takes quite a number of shots to defeat even the weakest of enemies. So it's pretty much just trying to make use of what little you have in order to try to get by this stage as quick as possible, and even some cases using enemy abilities against them, as you can see from this big boy right here. Wow. Using the blade right back in his face when the enemy was stunned to get the fastest possible kill. Seeing it again, and pretty much go on with your merry little way with some more call platforming before we get to our boss, so to speak.
Yep. Call does have a couple of neat movement tricks, though. She does have the jetpack for a slow fall, and now in this section we get to see the force field. That's her special weapon, honestly, because that's the only thing the meter is going to do. It doesn't regenerate at all except through drops, which there you go. Whoa. Okay, there we go.
Very scary portion of the stage, and right towards the end as well.
Let's give the player this new mechanic and make them go through this whole section. All right, good job, we did it. And I think Sigma's been feeding Velgarder the dog food. He's got the good stuff.
Yeah, but calling it Velgarder is giving it too much praise. I like to call it Velgar Derp, because yeah, this dog definitely likes to derp around, especially when you turn off his camera. And just turn off the camera does inflict damage, but that's not the main source of damage. Actually, the main source of damage is gonna be a bit RNG. So right here, we're gonna see what we get first, and there it is. That is gonna be your main source of damage. You're gonna be trying to hopefully feed those bombs into Velgar Derp, in order to kill it as quick as possible. However, since this is the RNG box, there is also a small little caveat. The box that carries a bomb can also carry a security robot as well, in which when the dog eats it up, it gets its vision back.
Yep. So it's not as RNG as it may seem at first. You're the first 4, you are going to get 2 and 2. So the real question is, what is the 5th one going to be? Is Tempest takes a fall off the ice platforms there. Again, just can't grab the ledges on the ice. Come on, bomb robot. Actually, Tempest is making use of Avi's sort of secondary weapon ability here. You can hold that propeller over your head and get a hover effect, a slow fall, which is very useful. And I believe it still does damage while it's over your head.
Yeah, it can also act as a makeshift shield for stuff that going up on top of you. Probably one of the main ways to get through the final portions of Pyrogen stage safely if you have it.
Oh yeah, that will just take out all those fireballs that would otherwise... Like, the fireballs themselves and raining fire section is not terrible. It's when you put that plus knockback plus a pit underneath it. That's when it becomes
platforms. All right, so Kiwami's almost done taking care of our little doggy. Hopefully we'll get a bomb in. This will be as right as rain. We're about to find out in a few seconds.
Tempest with like no health again, clutching out a mighty number fight, and I'm not sure I would have been anywhere near Cryogen with that little health, and he's just like, nope, we're doing this.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. I gotta do this.
Oh.
Yeah! Oh,
the doctor in the background there.
Dr.
Posing for the
Sanda.
boss.
We did it, boys! We did it, fam!
Yeah! This game... This game has high standard deviation, and most of the bad parts are mostly like just implementation, but the game itself is solid. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, one of the things we actually do need to know, once you defeat the 8 mighty numbers, there are actually 2 stages that are open. What's happening right now is once you find out what's the source of the malfunctioning robots that are going on, which is actually based on an old robot that was created but got decommissioned named Trinity, you actually have the option to go to 2 different levels. You saw the prison stage where you're actually going to be getting information from Dr. Blackwell. Ooh, Kiwami taking a death.
Both runners taking a death at the exact same spot, actually.
Wow. But yeah, you saw the prison stage on Kiwami's stage, but Tempest is actually starting off with this other stage, which is the robot factory. So yeah, you got the option of doing either 2 of these stages first. It's just that Kiwami is doing it second while Tempest is doing it first.
Tempest going for a dash a little too close to the spikes there. It's one of those falling sections where you want to go a little bit faster, so you want to use a little bit of extra, like take some extra risks, and the spikes are right there for you. We've got the evil button robots here in the middle of the factory, which haven't really seen Cryonis' weapon yet, but it is a weakness here. It does lots of damage to machines, apparently.
Yeah, pretty much your typical ice weapon. Once it hits, it's gonna be freezing your robots in place. Pretty much put them vulnerable to acceleration dash finisher, and yeah, pretty much a decent weapon all out. And there you seen the reflective properties and the slight tracking abilities of the counter shit weapon. Pretty much worthy of the high ammo cost. It pretty much mows through anything that is in near contact or vicinity of it.
Yep, and remember intro boss? Intro stage boss is back. This time, though, we have weapons, and Brandish just, well, cuts right through them.
Literally, I might add.
Well done. Tempest getting through that first section here. This large spike pit, again, right? Things that are not terribly difficult, but if you want to do them with any level of speed, navigating an instant death arena is always fun.
Yeah, with enemies along the way to impede the progress and mess with movement timing doesn't help much. Also, here basically got a kill room. It's basically on a timer, but it's pretty much what we would like to call the Mighty Numbers 9 version of a boss rush. As you can see, all the Mighty Numbers are just pretty much banded together to destroy all these robots, all in unison. But yeah, it's pretty much just a time kill room. So nothing really to speed it up too much, except for being some of the enemies as quick as possible.
Yep. There's actually enough enemies in here you can use an E-Tank and build up a complete new E-Tank while you're in here, just from defeating the blue enemies. That's good. We're through there, just moving through to the end. I think that should be about it.
Yep, in this part we're gonna be dealing with basically the core of the robot factory here. But before to do that, you pretty much gotta defeat all of these like tank mechanoids, and you gotta defeat them before you can actually get to said core. And you wanna defeat this as soon as possible, because in the background another tank is pretty much gonna be in assembly. If you don't beat it fast enough, that tank will be along the way, and you will not have another means to destroy this boss. And yeah, a very solid one cycle on Kiwami's end.
Very nice. Cherry dynamics, everybody.
Alright, so that's pretty much all the major stages taken care of. The two like end game stages before the very final stage, where we pretty much get all the dialogue and all the plot stuff that's going on before we return to the Battle Coliseum that we saw in the intro cutscenes. It's looking a little bit worse for wear.
Nothing quite like the assimilating robot just turning everything into a pile of cubes.
Alright, so the first portion of the stage is yet another kill room. Once again, Battalion gonna be our main weapon of choice to try to destroy multiple of these cubes as quickly as possible. Of course, some of these cubes are specifically colored to our power-up abilities that we alluded to at the very beginning of the run. So we're gonna try to hopefully use those to either speed up in terms of movement or in power, just to try to just get out of this kill room as quickly as possible.
I think Tempest is going to get to see the second cycle of this boss. The only bad thing about that is besides the time of having to fight a second cycle, is we get to see the desperation attack of the tank here.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually another place where Avi's weapon can come into play, just holding a propeller over your head, because apparently if you destroy a missile with a propeller that's held immediately over your head, it doesn't do any damage at all.
And as you can see, the tank is invulnerable during this stretch. So yeah, a lot of time adding tack to it. But while we're in this Battle Coliseum, you can see I'll probably say this particular mechanic wasn't really emphasized all that well in game. These little forming blocks, as you can see at a distance, they do reform, but if you destroy them up close, they do not reform. Of course, dealing them a certain amount of damage over a period of time, they actually do become standable platforms.
Yeah, so a lot of this last stage kind of becomes dealing with these platforms and how do we get through it all. And it's a little tricky.
Yeah, Kiwami just getting a little bit flustered by these platforms as we go to our plot dump / auto scroller as to Trinity's origins and of course how this relates to Beck. But otherwise, this is just like a glorified auto scroller. So once again, if you got time for some donations, this would be a great time.
Just in time, actually, we do have a couple of donations. First off, Berry Anonymous donates $100, saying, "Putting this towards all red berries." Oh, I see what you did there. Thanks Thanks to everyone, runners, commentators, staff, and volunteers for all you do. Thank you so much for that generous donation. And speaking of anonymous, an anonymous donor sends in $5. No comment, but again, thank you so much. All of this is going to the Trevor Project, and we really appreciate all of your support.
Thank you for those generous donations as we continue on with probably what would normally have been probably a very dangerous and kind of complex area. You saw that the wind mechanics return. This time the forms that they let you float up as long as you air dash. As you can see, there were like those platform blocks that were in the way. You got to take care of those before proceeding. Took care of the rest of the platforming, and now we're at the first Trinity phase, which kind of has a familiar attack pattern.
Not exactly crossing the room, but definitely a series of blocks that are just kind of crossing the stage and doing things. And basically, once half of her goes across the screen, the core becomes vulnerable. If you're on your game, you can actually one cycle it there, and we get to say easy devil, just like the old days. Otherwise, we get to see another attack sequence, and well, here we go.
Just missed a 2 cycle.
Oh, come on.
Doing some interesting things. I'm not sure if anyone on stream is seeing this, but the game is doing some pretty interesting things on Cohesion.
We're both watching the the restream here and just like, oh, okay, come on. I think we're just having a little bit of technical difficulties there, but no biggie. Once you get through that first stage, though, you can see the core, and it decides time for Plan B. And this is sort of our strange giant flower final boss of some sort.
Well, Trinity is a bit of a pretty flower, or at least wants to be a pretty flower. But yeah, pretty much the same thing. You pretty much got to try to expose the core and try to get hits. Of course, in some phases, you got to use weapons to actually get in range of said core so you can do damage to it. Battalion, brandish, all kinds of weapons, even seismic's ability, if you so choose, are good to either put this boss into hittable levels or just flat out deal damage.
Yeah, and Brandish's weapon there, for some reason, seems to kind of just not take damage. Trinity can't get through the sword swings to actually damage back. So again, that's another good place to try to end the fight before you have to deal with that kind of cross the room phase. But no biggie. Looks like it's really only 1 cycle left here, maybe 2, and we should be home free.
Oh, well, we're going to be dealing with a couple of more cycles after that death, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, you got to do all these bosses at once. So if you die to to any part of the boss fight, oh, I was about to say, I thought I saw second phase for a moment. But yeah, if you die at any part of the fight, you got to do the whole fight over.
Back to the beginning. Everybody's favorite, the 2-phase end boss.
And for how this fight goes, this is a pretty lengthy affair. So yeah, a pretty significant time loss, especially being so close to the end.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but hopefully just see a little bit of a luckier go at it here.
All right, second time, same as the first. Gonna deal with the second phase, and hopefully we get some better luck this time. Of course, unfortunately, especially when playing casually and you got one of those side E-tanks. Of course, unfortunately, though, I don't think those E-tanks even transfer through death. So if you die, so if you die and you don't use your recovery tank, yeah, they don't transfer. So you're gonna have to do this all in 1 health bar, as unfortunately Kiwami's kind of experiencing now. Pretty much bursting the edge of death right now.
That's where you're going to see, just keep mashing with Brandish's weapon and hope for the best. It is possible to get an E-tank from Eddie, or as we got someone in chat reporting to us, Patch. The name is Patch.
Ah, yes, I remember. The name is familiar.
Yeah, there's actually 2 different E-Tanks you can get in this game. You can have one of each, and Patch can give you the Type 2. They're both the same effect. It's an E-Tank. Just one is given to you, and the other is sort of generated and built up from defeating enemies. Oh my goodness. I think you can still get hit after that.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was saying. You still got to survive the rest of it before time is now. GG's to Kiwami.
GG.
She had a bit of a rough go towards the end of this game, but finished very, very strongly. Of course, we got a root for Tempest as well. Got through our final 2 in-game stages before going to the final stage in and of itself. Got to go through all the same thing that Kiwami gone through, the kill rooms at the beginning, the very tricky platforming, especially with those specific reappearing blocks that just once again just kind of feels a little convoluted on a first playthrough. To repeat the mechanic of those specific blocks, you got to shoot them in order to make them solid and standable, and once you destroy them, they stay gone, but if you go a certain distance, they do reform as those unstable, untouchable platforms, which you gotta repeat the process of shooting them again to get back into a standable state. So yeah, a pretty silly concept, but once you know what to do, I would say it's less tedious, but still kind of tedious nonetheless.
Yeah, once you know what to do, it's not that bad, especially once you start working out how far back you need to go to make things respawn. But it is, like you said, it's like any old game where you've got just really weird mechanic that shows up at the very end. It's like, how does this work? And if there was a little more obvious how to get things to regenerate or how to get them to not regenerate, it would be a lot better, especially as Tempest was a little too far away for them to stay dead. So it sort of just immediately regenerates and you're kind of stuck wondering, what am I supposed to do here?
It goes to stand there, like we said before, we do genuinely like this game. The production problems and end results aside, we do genuinely like this game, but at the same time, there are just some issues that even we really can't quite defend or quite answer or explain. But it is what it is. We still want you to at least give Mighty Number 9, if you have an availability to get it, at least give it a genuine shot. It's not a bad game. It's not that bad of a game. It's typical Mega Man fare. You, like I said, you jump, shoot, you dash. The way you attack and finish enemies off is a little unorthodox, especially since you're doing dashes, and doing physical attacks in Mega Man games is not the most popular kind of attacking in the world, but it does work for what it does. The platforming can be a bit rough, but it's just like most Mega Man games. Once you play it more often, it kind of becomes a little bit second nature to you. So we just kind of just want to give Mighty Number 9 more of a proper showcase, a little bit more fair justice into what the production and what the critical backlash that the game did deservedly get, but kind of got overboard with.
Yeah, I still think a lot of it, and I mean that's why I brought it up in Aviator Stage too. I think some of the like the Wii U and the PlayStation 3 release especially kind of led to people saying, what even happened here? Because on those platforms, the graphics they really are N64 quality. But you can see here, like the game actually isn't that bad. The game's actually really good.
I will probably say it's kind of like X6 at worst. because
That works.
it does have some of its very scummy platforming, kind of in the vein of X6. But just like any other Mega Man game, it's a game where kind of trial and error kind of just is it's basically the bread and butter of his game. Once you learn it to do things, kind of like test how to do things, get used to some of the mechanics, the platforming that it does. Tempest taking another unfortunate death on the first phase of Trinity. It's it just becomes just another Mega Man game.
Yeah, this is a solid Mega Man game. So one more shot here. We're just gonna wait for this, and Tempest's not gonna dash into the corner. Just gonna try and get as much damage as we can in otherwise.
Yep, that's pretty much the gist of this fight. We keep saying it, but it's that good of a weapon that we keep talking about it in this phase. Battalion just being the goat of a weapon that it is, and just mashing the unholy bejeebus out of this first phase of Trinity, trying to weather all the health down.
Yeah, Battalion's weapon is just way too good. It is nice for a change to have the good weapon be the weapon that works on the final boss. Granted, there's a handful of weapons that work on the final boss, but I think they're all good weapons. Even we didn't talk a lot about Seismic's weapon very much, but there was a point where Tempest did use Seismic's weapon in the factory stage to kind of climb up a staircase, which is a strat I absolutely love, because you kind of get to be the car bouncing on top of everything, and it's great.
Yeah, Tim's Juice did for the first area of Donatron's stage. We didn't get to mention because of course, naturally, we usually put a lot of focus on the person that's hey,
Almost. Unfortunate. Sorry, I felt like unmuting for that one because I was just so far behind. Kiwami, you can unmute as well. Yeah, I'm going to give that one more go. I'm assuming that we have enough time for one more go at least.
But
Sorry about that. Yeah, this game has been. I'm like, wow, this game has been memeing on me today. Like, what the heck?
It happens.
It does. But man, hey, GG's to Kiwami all the same. Like, I love this game, but it's Mighty Number 9 and I. Well, let me put it this way. I'm still kind of not used to the differences in how the game actually plays, because there are just some minute differences between. I started on the Xbox One version, and the PC version is much faster in comparison, and so the slight differences are kind of what threw me off here. If that makes sense.
Suggestion. I think the game heard you when you declared yourself an anime fan who did not cry on prom night.
Thank you, Zokubun.
You gotta remember, these games are sentient. They feel our fear and pain, and they just feed upon them. You gave it ammo.
There's not
Pretty
many
much.
things you can do to anger the Mighty Number 9 gods, but I think you found it.
We'll see.
All right. Once again, giving another go, using Battalion as a start to try to get Trinity down to levels where you can strike it down. And then this phase, once again, using Brandis to just mash it down, using the acceleration dash to wither all that red health that, once again, as we mentioned, can refill, and probably going to be in the position where it does refill. Once again, going through each and every single phase, trying to either dodge shots or try to get any kind of opening as much as possible. Trinity is no slouch in these final phases.
She really is not. Like, I would say she's one of the parts where if you're learning the game and you're having a bit of trouble, then it's probably going to be from her. But let's see if I can get this last hit. Whoop! Oh no, I got to absorb. Oh, what? Oh, wow, unfortunate. Well, I think we are probably going to have to just call it there. Well, shucks. I'm officially going to forfeit.
It was an honest go, and you really was. The game was basically over by that point, so I think it's still good enough to call it GG. So GG's to you, both of you. Kiwami, our winning racer of this portion, and Tempest for putting a very solid showing.
Yeah, this game is this game is just so much fun, and yeah.
And before we cut away, can I ask, is there anything any of you would like to promote, shout out? Let us know where we can find you.
Of course. I'll start with if any of you want to give this game and speedrun a shot, we have a Mighty Number 9 community where we got a Discord link, and if any of you would like to join our community, we'd be more than happy to help you. I'd also like to give a big shout out to Ipeho Pue, the current world record holder. He's one of my good friends and has been putting a lot of elbow grease into this game. So some of the things that I learned definitely came from him. But also a big shout out to just anyone who's run Mighty Number 9 in general. You all have set the foundation, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have found the inspiration to try this game. I might have lost, but the battle was still won in my heart, and so you all, yeah. I'll actually be here doing a couple more runs tomorrow, so this won't necessarily be the last time you're going to see me, but other than that, I mean, if you want to follow me, I don't have a static streaming schedule, but I'm TempestMask1000 on here on YouTube, so feel free.
Right, and anything from Kiwami?
Well, I would also shout out the Mighty Number 9 Discord, and as well recommend everyone to give this game a go. Like Mighty Number 9, like it doesn't really deserve the bad reputation that it had, and it's a really fun speedrun. Like the game flows really well as a speedrun. The speed tech is fun, and I would say that it's not a hard game to learn. I mean, other than like someone cycles, the game is not really that hard to learn. So it's definitely a cool game if you're into Mega Man clones.
All right, well, thank you both so much for that race, for the amazing showing. And and thank you also to our commentators, Mr. Cab and LV Creed. That I won't lie, it was very entertaining. As someone who did kickstart the game, stick around.
Oh, goodness.
That makes 3 of us here. Probably more.
High five.
I kickstarted Shantae Half Genie Hero.
But yes, folks, stick around if you like bullet hex. I'm being told is the genre. We've got another great run coming up for you.
Okay, I just cut us over.
Wonderful.
Good job on the runs.
Ooh,
GG.
I really don't know what happened with Battalion, though. That was definite, and also the fact that K9 broke the sentry instead of eating it, that's never happened before to me.